So all of those rumors about a February Nintendo Direct did lead to something, but it may have not been exactly what people have wanted, as Nintendo did announce earlier today that there is going to be a Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, which is going to be happening tomorrow morning from the time that I upload this video, and I do think that there are going to be some pretty big third-party games that get announced for the Switch 2 inside of this, but it's not really exactly what people wanted, as everybody really wants to know what are going to be the big Nintendo games and first-party titles that we can expect to play on the Switch 2 this year, and it seems like one of those may have actually ended up leaking, and it's making me pretty excited, and is also causing a lot of discussion online because it has to do with Xenoblade. So this is all coming from a voice actress, which is really funny because it wouldn't be the first time that a Xenoblade voice actress has ended up leaking a future Xenoblade game before she was supposed to, as this also happened with Xenoblade 3 and Jenna Coleman, where she was actually having a video interview with a fan talking about her role of Melia inside a Xenoblade, and then she just ended up saying something where she was like, I think they're also going to make another one because I think there is another Xenoblade game coming or something like that, because I guess by this time she had already recorded the lines for like Queen Melia inside of Xenoblade 3, so once she said that, everybody started speculating like if she knows something, then I guess something is coming, and then we had the insiders coming out and saying how Xenoblade 3 was going to be taking place in the future, and there was going to be returning characters from past games, and of course all of that turned out to be true. Now, the voice actress that we're talking about today is Caitlin Thorburn, as this is actually somebody who has voiced characters in Xenoblade games before, where she actually voiced a few of the blades that are inside of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So she's actually the voice of KOS-MOS, Telos, and also Nim. So she has worked on Xenoblade characters in the past, and the reason why everybody's going kind of crazy is this is her Spotlight page, which Spotlight is one of those websites where people can hire voice actors and voice actresses for their projects. So if you are like a director or like an agent, you can go on here and find people who might be a good fit for your role. And if we scroll down here, it talks about like her location and some stuff like that. But if we go to her credits, this is where it gets really interesting, because on the further page, it actually says here, Xenoblade Chronicles, date 2026, a video game with the role of KOS-MOS for Nintendo. And so this is interesting because it is on this page here and it has 2026 and something to do with Xenoblade and saying that she did the role for KOS-MOS. So now people are getting really excited thinking about exactly what this could mean. And something that's also worth mentioning is that on the Spotlight website, only the person themselves can make changes or edits to their page, so this also couldn't have been done as like a prank or something to get people falsely excited, because you know how on like Wikipedia, I could just go to like Sydney Sweeney's page right now, and at the top there's like an edit button, and I could just click on that and make it say like, actually she also voiced the character in Xenoblade 4, and that's going to be coming out in 2026. Nobody could have done that for this person, so like it makes people think like there's going to be a Xenoblade game coming out this year, even though she didn't actually do anything. This means that she herself went on her own page and typed in 2026, she worked on a Xenoblade game with the voice of KOS-MOS. And so of course, now everybody's trying to figure out what this could be for, because what type of Xenoblade related thing could be releasing in 2026 where she needed to do the voice of KOS-MOS, and I feel like there's definitely a couple of options that are going up in the air right now, so I just kind of want to talk about all of them and then let you guys know how I feel. And so the first one, which I also feel like is probably the most likely outcome, is that this is for a Xenoblade 2 Nintendo Switch 2 edition, as we've already seen with a lot of Switch 1 games that Nintendo is doing Switch 2 editions for them, where they add a little bit of extra content, they add some quality of life changes, they upgrade the game for the Switch 2 with better resolution and frame rate and stuff, and they sell that as like a $20 upgrade pack for people who have the game, or also sell it as like a bundled version if you want to have the game and the Switch 2 edition. And I definitely feel like Xenoblade 2 could use a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, definitely add some quality of life changes to it, make it so that it's like easier to navigate through the menus, make it so that you can reread tutorials, maybe add multiple save files, stuff like that, and of course increasing the resolution so that the game doesn't look really fuzzy on your TV, and also in handheld mode, while also having like better frame rate and performance so that the game is buttery smooth using the Switch 2's power, and have that in like 60 FPS, and also maybe having some new content where maybe there's like new Blade quests or like an extra mini game or some other mode or something, and because of that there's going to be some new voice lines for KOS-MOS, which is why they hired Caitlin to do some new lines, and that's why she's saying that she did some stuff for Xenoblade in 2026, so I feel like something like that could make sense. And I did see some people saying that, well, she did voice a few characters in Xenoblade 2, with also like Telos and Nim, but here it only says that she's voicing KOS-MOS, so how could this be related to Xenoblade 2? And I feel like if it has something to do with KOS-MOS specifically, it still could make sense. I mean, a lot of people do think that with like Future Redeemed being the Xenoblade 3 DLC, there was a lot of like Xenosaga lore and connections that were inside of that, and people were speculating that maybe KOS-MOS could have something to do with future Xenoblade titles, so maybe if they want to have like a separate episode and like a Xenoblade 2 DLC that ties into that or something, then it could involve KOS-MOS again or something like that. So you never really know, and I feel like if it has something to do with KOS-MOS, I feel like it could still make sense. The other thing that I've seen a lot of people talking about though is an entire Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Definitive Edition. And really, a lot of the discussion for a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition came from Nate the Hate, as if you don't know who Nate the Hate is, he is pretty much like the most accurate leaker that we have when it comes to Nintendo stuff. He's gotten a lot of things correct in terms of like exactly when Nintendo Directs are gonna happen, future game announcements and stuff like that, and he made a predictions video earlier where he was talking about like predictions for Nintendo's 2026, and a lot of times his predictions do actually end up referring to real stuff that he knows in terms of inside information. And he did explicitly say in his predictions video that he thinks that a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition is going to come out this year, which was a little bit fishy, so it got people thinking that maybe this could actually happen, and now with this happening from the voice actress, people are thinking that maybe this is actually going to happen and we could get a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition. Now, I've said it before, but I personally hope that we don't get an entire Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition, as I feel like some people don't understand that a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition and a Xenoblade 2 Nintendo Switch 2 Edition are two separate things. So just in case some people don't quite understand, a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Xenoblade 2 would mean that if you already have Xenoblade 2, you would be able to upgrade your game to that Nintendo Switch 2 version by just paying the price of the upgrade pack, which is usually $20. So I already have Xenoblade 2, I have the cartridge for the game. If you already have it as a cartridge or if you downloaded it from the eShop, then once this Nintendo Switch 2 edition comes out, all you have to do is go to the eShop, buy the upgrade pack, and it'll download the new content and instantly turn your version of Xenoblade 2 into the Nintendo Switch 2 version. And even if you don't have Xenoblade 2 already, they would just make you buy the entire base game for $60 plus the $20 upgrade pack for a total of $80, which would be a bundle that you could get on the eShop, but it would also be sold physically in stores, as I'm sure you've seen that for some of the other Nintendo Switch 2 editions with like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, plus like the Star-Crossed World DLC, that comes together inside of the cartridge, and you can see it in stores for $80 because you're essentially getting the $60 base game plus the $20 Switch 2 upgrade all included together, so they would just do that for people who don't have Xenoblade 2 but still want to buy all of this physically. Now, a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition is different from this because this would mean that your existing copy of Xenoblade 2, whether it's digital or a physical cartridge, would be meaningless because this is an entire re-release of the game again, so this would be on a new cartridge and it would be an entire new download on the eShop, and it has nothing to do with the game that you already have. So the reason that this would suck is that this would be an entire new version of the game that everybody has to pay $70 for because it is now going to be a next generation Switch 2 game, so get ready for that $69.99 pricing. And so this would just be really stupid because you can already play Xenoblade 2 on your Switch 2, the system is backwards compatible with the original Switch, but if they then introduce another new version of Xenoblade 2 with a definitive edition, then if somebody types in Xenoblade 2 on the eShop, they're going to see both of those come up and be confused as to which one to get. In stores, if you see some copies of like the old Xenoblade 2 and then also the Xenoblade 2 definitive edition, that's going to get kind of confusing, so I feel like it just really wouldn't make any sense. And you also have to consider how many people would be willing to double dip and spend $70 on a version of Xenoblade 2 again, because I don't think that that would be a lot of people, as Xenoblade 2 is the best-selling Xenoblade game of all time, and it does have 2 million sales, but I also don't think that all 2 million of those people would be super excited and getting ready to spend $70 on buying a version of that game again, and it's really just going to be like the Xenoblade diehards and the huge fans of that game who would be willing to spend that money and buy it again. And I guess maybe some people who haven't experienced the game and can now experience it this way, but a lot of casual people who bought the game already, and whether they liked it or they didn't like it, they just thought that the game was fine, I don't think that those people would be getting ready to spend $70 to buy the game again, especially when money is tight right now and everybody's really kind of considering how to spend it and what games to buy. But that's why if you already have Xenoblade 2 and you played through the game, if they just released a $20 upgrade pack for a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game, that's a much easier pill to swallow, and I'm sure a lot of people would be fine with spending $20 to just upgrade their Xenoblade 2 to a better version on the Switch 2. But I also want to bring up the possibility that this might also not have anything to do with Xenoblade 2 specifically, and it could just be for something else. So I've definitely seen a lot of people also saying a Xenoblade spin-off game, and maybe this spin-off game is just going to have KOS-MOS in it, so that's why we have new voice lines from this voice actress, and I feel like that could also happen too. People have been asking for a Xenoblade Warriors for a very long time. I'm not really like a huge Warriors fan, but then again, if they do make a Xenoblade Warriors, and especially if it has like a sequel story or something, and it's actually like really interesting, and you have Monolith Soft also aiding with it and working on it, then that could be a very exciting like fan servicey type of game where you have characters from all of the Xeno lore and all of the Xeno worlds coming together, and you have characters from Xenoblade 1, 2, 3, X, and you can play as all of them and stuff. It could be really cool in that sense, so maybe it could be some type of spin-off game like that. I've seen some people joking, what if it's like a mobile game or something too? You never really know, like it could be just some other like spin-off thing or something that's not related to just like a mainline Xenoblade game, so it could be that, and maybe it's gonna have like KOS-MOS in it, so that's why the voice actress recorded some new lines. And then the other thing is, what if this is really like a brand new Xenoblade game? Like, what if this is Xenoblade Chronicles 4 or a sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles X or something, and it's just gonna have KOS-MOS in it, so that's why the voice actress recorded some new lines? This I feel like is like the more unlikely outcome, but you never really know, and maybe this could also be like a new IP from Monolith Soft where it could be like a whole separate thing and it's just gonna have KOS-MOS in it, and that's why we've got some new lines, but I feel like this is probably more unlikely, and it's probably just gonna have something to do with a more minor role. I can't really see like an entire big game like starring KOS-MOS coming out. Xenosaga itself is still owned by Bandai Namco, and they have been chill with letting Xenoblade games use some of their stuff, like having Telos and KOS-MOS as blades inside of Xenoblade 2, and the references with like the Future Redeemed DLC for Xenoblade 3. I just don't think that they'd be doing anything super major with like Xenosaga itself. I've seen some people going to like crazy conclusions like this is going to be Xenosaga 4, or they're remaking Xenosaga, or like this is a Xenosaga trilogy remaster or something like that. I just don't think that that's the case, especially because the voice actress herself, she typed on her page Xenoblade, like she didn't type in Xenosaga, so I just feel like it's not going to be related to anything with that. And I'm also pretty sure that Takahashi and Monolith Soft are self-aware that a lot of the fans of Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, and X have not played Xenosaga because they weren't around, and it really started just gaining like a bunch of popularity after Xenoblade 1 and especially after Xenoblade 2. So like while there are people who understand the references in like Future Redeemed and in Xenoblade 2 and stuff, I'm not one of those people. I'm sure it's cool, and I do plan to play like the Xenosaga trilogy at some point later, but that's why I feel like if they do something like really big for Xenosaga, it's not going to be like a whole bunch of people like who are really going to understand everything. It's really just going to be like that small percentage of people who've actually played Xenosaga, so I'm sure that they themselves are also aware that like a lot of their fans don't really know all of this stuff. But yeah, wrapping up everything here, I do feel like if this is a Xenoblade 2 Nintendo Switch 2 edition, then this could honestly just be like shadow dropped at any point. Like we've seen Nintendo just shadow drop like a reveal of like an Animal Crossing Switch 2 edition on a random Tuesday, so they could honestly just drop that whenever. I feel like if it's an entire Xenoblade 2 definitive edition, or if it's like an entire big like Switch 2 game or something, like a spin-off game even too, I feel like that's going to be announced maybe then inside of like the actual Nintendo Direct that's going to happen whenever like the next big like mainline Direct is, whether it's going to be in March or whenever it happens. I feel like that's when we would probably see the reveal for that, especially if it is going to be 2026 like it says on this voice actress's page. Then they would definitely need to reveal it at like the next big Nintendo event. But if it's like a mobile game or something, then that could also be shadow dropped. I mean, they shadow dropped like that Fire Emblem Among Us game a few months ago where it was just like out of nowhere. They were like, here's a brand new Fire Emblem game, and it's on mobile devices, and it's on the App Store and Google Play Store right now, and you can download it. They could just do that if it's like a Xenoblade mobile game or something, so that could be shadow dropped at any point too. I don't think that they would need like a Nintendo Direct for that, so you never really know, but it does say 2026, so if this does actually end up leading to something, then we should probably be finding out very soon. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well. I'm definitely gonna have some more videos talking about Nintendo stuff, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Comment down below and let me know what you think about all of this. Do you think that this is actually going to lead to something coming out this year? And do you think that it has to do with Xenoblade 2? Is it going to be a Switch 2 edition, a definitive edition, something else? How do you feel about all of this? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know. But if you don't have anything to say about it, just comment your favorite emoji down below for some engagement. I would really appreciate it. Go follow me on Twitter at @Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.